Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Quilts for Miles. So in this video I decided to do snippets of my work week last week. It was a very short week in regards of how much time I had in my sewing room because I was helping my sister with bits and pieces. I could only spend an hour here, there and everywhere sewing. So I didn't have all day, every day to sew last week. So I thought I'd just record bits and pieces of what I did do throughout last week. So I hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my YouTube channel. So on this day I started putting all my finished stuff in this basket that we have. So I lined it with just some plain black homespun because this used to be a toy box that we used for my nieces and nephews. But because we don't use it as a toy box anymore, I decided to store all my finished projects that I sell on Etsy in here. So everything you see that going in this basket is currently on Etsy at the moment. So this is my Santa's Magic Key wall hanging, and it's a decent sized quilt, and all those letters were foundation paper pieced, and I just cross hatched that for the quilting. So this one here is a scrappy table topper, so it's just about 20 inches and it's just very scrappy. I free motion quilted it. So this one is a coaster, and I just use batiks for these. Some, as you saw, have got binding and some don't have binding on them. And then these are matching placemats. So I did a coaster and placemat set. These aren't currently on Etsy, but they will be in the next week or so. And then these are some Christmas stockings. So for this one in particular, as you can see, I did some piecing, these are 6-inch blocks that I just pieced and then pieced them in the front of the stocking, and this just gives it a more interesting look. And here's another one, it's got two different pieced blocks into it. So as you can see, I added a star to represent a Christmas star. And here's one that's just a plain fabric, and then I decided to do a cuff. So they're a bit different, and something that gives it an interesting element to the stocking. So there's three of each. There's three Christmas stockings that have got pieced blocks, and there's three that are just a plain full piece of fabric with a cuff. And they are currently on my Etsy shop as well at the moment. So that's all I've got for in there at the moment, and as I make more things will get added into that basket. Here I'm moving on to my Evergreen quilt. It was a free pattern from the Fat Quarter shop that got done, I think back in July, as a quilt along. It went only for 4 weeks, so it's a very quick sew. Here I'm starting to pin baste it so I can get it quilted. And the border, I used Pat Salone's border layout for this one in particular and not the one that the Fat Quarter shop did. So here I'm just testing to see if I needed to add any more fabric to make the backing a little bit bigger. So if you do want to make this quilt, the pattern is on the Fat Quarter shop website, and as I said, it is a free pattern, and it's their 2023 Christmas quilt along that they did this year. So as you can see, I'm now ready to pin baste it, and now I'm just starting to get this all pin basted so I can put it under the machine and get it quilted. So I don't measure like pins, I just put the pins where I want to put them. I try not to put them on any seams if I can help it, but you will see later in the video that I have actually put them over the border seam that was just easy, otherwise there would have been too many pins if I did it in each border. But generally I try and avoid putting them over seams. I just put them within blocks, and if I have to I will put them over seams. I think I put them over seams in the pinwheel blocks as well for memory, but they are a very small square, and the only way you could get them pin basted was to put them over a seam. This is the quilt. It's finished being pin basted and it's now ready for the quilting to start on it. So as you can see, I do use a fair bit of pins in pin basting. I do try and keep them as close as possible. So this was another day, because this is I think I did this one on Saturday from memory. This is my Christmas quilt. This is an actual full-size quilt. That block is from the Laurie Holt Scrappiness is Happiness book, and I just made a quilt out of that block. It's the same block for the quilt, so I think I used 9 blocks. I think it's 3 by 3. And I just used a variety of red Christmas prints for the star blocks, and I used a snowflake for the center and just a white homespun for my background. And then the little cornerstones, you can see that's a green Christmas print. One's a ho-ho and I think the other one's a star. So I only used 2 different Christmas prints for the little cornerstones. So here I'm trimming the quilt top up so I can get it ready for the binding basically. So I'm just lining everything up and just trimming up the board, just trimming off the excess backing and batting. So this quilt is a decent size. I think it is about 60 inches roughly. For memory it might be a little bit more. The measurements will be on the Etsy listing. This isn't on Etsy yet, but once again, just like the placemats and coasters that you saw previously, this will be on Etsy in the next week or two. So everything you see in my videos, 95% I should say of the things you see in my videos are going to either go on eBay or Etsy, and they're going to go up for sale. There are a few things that I'll do for personal quilts that you'll see them get done and you'll see them get finished, but they don't ever get sold. They're just for us to use. So as you can see, I'm up towards the end of the first side that I'm trimming up. So here it's all finished. I've got it completely trimmed and it's now ready for the binding to be attached to it. So here I'm just making all the binding strips. I cut the 7 or 8 binding strips for this particular quilt. So I've cut them about 2 inches from memory for this one, because I'm trying something different, cutting them a little bit smaller and sewing the binding to the back and then sewing it by machine to the front. So to do that, I've just cut it a bit smaller because I didn't want the outer squares in that border to be cut down too much. So here I'm just sewing the binding onto the back of the quilt. So as I said, I'm trying something different and sewing it to the back of the quilt first, and then soon you will see me flip it to the front and use a blanket stitch to sew it to. As you can see, I have finished sewing the binding to the front of the quilt top. I used a red thread to match the front, and I also used a red thread in the bobbin. I like to use the same colour thread in the top and the bobbin because it hides any tension issues that the machine might have. But next time, as you'll see in a minute, I'm going to change the bobbin to a matching colour that I use to match the backing fabric, because as you can see, The red really stands out because I've used a white backing and a red thread. So next time I'm going to use a thread that matches the backing and also one that matches the top, so everything blends in a little bit more. So now, as you can see, I'm back to my evergreen wall hanging. As you can see, I am using masking tape or painter's tape, and this is what I use to mark my quilts to get my lines. So I don't ever use any marking tools such as pens, textures, pencils, anything that quilters normally use for marking, or chalk. I only ever use masking tape or painter's tape to get my straight lines. And then I use my walking foot as a guide as to where I actually want to sew. This doesn't leave any residue or anything on the quilt, and it's really easy and quick and really inexpensive as well. So I'm now at the sewing machine, and I'm sewing my straight lines. So how I use my painter's tape and my walking foot, it's very simple. I line up the edge of my walking foot onto the edge of the painter's tape, and that's basically how I get my straight lines for any cross hatching, any straight line quilting that I want to do. And it's how I avoid using marking tools onto my quilt, because as I've said, I have found in the past that marking tools have left a mark on my quilt, whereas painter's tape doesn't leave any residue or anything. It is very quick, it's very easy. It doesn't take me that long to actually get a line of stitching done. So as you can see, I'm almost done with the quilting. I'm on the last, say, 5 or so lines. I then just stay at my sewing machine. I don't get up and down like a yo-yo. I put my painter's tape down, I sew, take it off, put my painter's tape down and sew. And I do it all at my sewing machine for the last few lines. So as you can see here, I have completely finished quilting my evergreen wall hanging. As you can see, I did use just a cross hatch design to quilt this wall hanging. I enjoy using a cross hatch because I like the texture that specific design gives a quilt. I mainly do walking foot quilting. I don't do free motion quilting a lot because I only know how to do stippling. It is on the list to learn this year, is to learn more free motion quilting designs. But I also do enjoy walking foot and the texture that walking foot quilting does give to a quilt. So these are roughly about an inch to 2 inches apart, all the quilting lines on this quilt. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me this week in my sewing room. As you can see, I didn't do many projects, but I think I got a fair bit done considering the limited time I had to sew last week. So until my next video, God bless, and I'll see you next time.